Can we see everyone in here? Let's see. No. How am I able to see everyone in?
Participants, click participants on the bottom.
Oh, I see. Okay, but you don't actually see them. They're just watching, right?
Mhm.
Hi, everybody. Sorry,
Watching and listening.
sorry for the hiccup.
We switched to a new platform.
There's 173 of you. Can you believe 175, 177? Wow. What an honor that you all are taking the time to be here with us tonight. I'm truly blessed and thankful to be here. And I have the joy of sharing all this information with you that I wish I knew when I moved to the United States. And so my goal here today is that if I'm able to help at least one person, which I think I'll be able to do, with some good information, then we've met our goal here tonight. So my name is Filomena Maimoni. I'm an immigration attorney. I was born in Canada and moved to Florida 7 years ago. And I now help anyone and everyone who wants to move to the United States. So we're here today to share our story, to share some really valuable information with you, to connect with some of you, and to give you basically the resources you need to make it happen for you in an informed way. I want to let you all know that at the end of this, we're giving away a Travelocity gift card, $250, so that you can perhaps fly down to the Sunshine State and come hang out with us.
Isn't it mandatory that whoever wins has to come down?
Yeah, it's mandatory. No, I'm kidding.
We'll buy the margaritas.
You can go wherever you want. I just wanted to give back to this beautiful community. So please stay till the end. We're going to announce at the very end how you can enroll to win the prize. So Mama, do you want to tell them a little bit about our story and who we
Hello,
are?
I'm Mother-at-Law. That's my new name. My name is Rocky Maimoni, and I gave birth to Filomena Maimoni. Is that the only reason why I'm here? Yes and no. I've been a businesswoman. I was born and raised in Canada, and when I was in my late 40s, I made the decision to also exit Canada and relocate here in Fort Lauderdale. It was the best decision that I ever made, and watching Mena in her immigration career has been amazing to see the love and care that she puts into each and every client, and it's my honor to be here as well. I help to manage the firm. My official role is senior business manager, and I've had a chance, I think, to speak to so many of you and see some of you virtually as well. So great to be here tonight. Looking forward to sharing some amazing information. And that's about it. That's all I got right now.
So a few things that you can get from this, which have huge value. Number one is a free 20-minute call with one of our staff. So whether that be Danielle, a lot of you have met, Milena, Cindy, a lot of wonderful people. 2 of them are Canadian, just like you.
Three.
That's right. So you get the opportunity to have that free call. I know a lot of you want to talk to me. So everyone's like, why do I have to talk to them for free? Why can't I talk to you? Well, I don't have all the time in the world to do these 20-minute calls, but you do have the opportunity to have a 1-hour paid consultation with myself or a 1-hour paid consultation with one of our immigration specialists. So if you are interested in doing that, Randy here, our marketing friend, is going to provide you with the Calendly link. Very easy. You click the link, you select an available time, and you get on that call. A lot of you say, well, no one's calling me. You got to wait for your time slot and you'll get a call. Okay, so go ahead and do that if you're interested in getting, more detailed information about your specific scenario. So let's get right into it. Do you want to talk about our story, Mama?
Sure. So several years ago, we came down for a trip, and Mena and I did, and we decided at first we thought of maybe getting a second home so that we could visit Florida more often. Started looking at real estate, cost of real estate, return on investment, cash flowing properties. And all of a sudden, a light bulb went off. I looked at what my holdings and assets were in Canada, and I thought, if I take that and I move it to Florida, then essentially, John and I were in a position where we could decide to work instead of having to work. And I know so many of you have a ton of equity in your properties because real estate has gone through the roof in Canada. And if you take a look at what's sitting there and what you could potentially do with it here, it was an eye-opening decision. So we originally came down on an E2. The journey was difficult because I don't think we found the right people to guide us, but we made our way down and started living here, that we were a family of 4. And then Mena decided that she actually beat me here. She came before I did, went to law school here, worked always in immigration, and basically came up to me one day and said, "Mom, I think that we could have an amazing firm. All we have to do is take all the things that the lawyer did wrong with us and do it right. Take good care of our clients, guide them not only with, preparing legal paperwork, which is important, but also all the other questions you're going to have. We have a team of wonderful professionals to help you, whether it be financing, mortgage, real estate, healthcare, you name it, we're really here to guide you through the entire process." So that's basically how we ended up here tonight.
It's been a nice journey.
It has been a great journey.
So this is my part. I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about how the immigration system works. So anytime I do a consultation, that's the first thing that I do actually is get to know the client. The second thing that I do is talk about how immigration works. So you all are getting that for free tonight. So let's get into it. So there's 2 types of visas that one could get. Okay, so there's immigrant visas, and non-immigrant visas. What's the difference? Immigrant visas lead to a green card. Non-immigrant do not directly lead to a green card. But just because you're on a non-immigrant visa does not mean that in the future you can't transition over to an immigrant-based visa and become a permanent resident. So when I say green card, that means permanent resident. That means that you can work, not work, live in the United States full-time and do whatever it is that you would like to do. When you're on a visa, you're more constricted to some rules as to what you have to follow and what you can do and can't do, okay? So let's get into a couple really awesome visas that a lot of Canadians do not know about. A lot of Canadian attorneys don't know about it, right, Mom? We've talked to thousands of people who have wonderful credentials. Maybe they want to do an E2, but they don't know that they have this other option available to them. So what's EB1, what's EB2? So EB1 and EB2 are immigrant-based visas. That means that they
Green
leave
card.
green card. Okay, why is that good? Again, like we said, you can work and do whatever you like. No one's going to kick you out. EB1 and EB2 are based on a few things. So it's really important that if you meet some of these criteria that you reach out to us and send us your resume so that we can make a proper determination as to whether you actually qualify or not. But what are we looking for? Okay, we're looking for a bachelor's degree or higher. If it's a bachelor's degree, you've got to have at least 5 years experience in your field. If it's a master's degree or higher, you don't require any experience. It's always good to show, but you don't require it for the educational component. So we're looking at for somebody who's highly educated, okay? Then we're looking at somebody who has perhaps won some awards. Maybe they've been published, or maybe they're in some articles cited for their work. They've been recognized in some way that sets them apart from the pack, okay? Maybe they're part of some professional association. For example, as a lawyer, you'd be part of the bar. So maybe if there's another lawyer in this group, you're part of the bar, that would be great. That would be one of the qualifications that you could meet. Maybe you command a high salary, higher than the average person in your field. So with all these things combined and putting together what's called a proposed endeavor. So it's basically, what are you going to do when you're in the US? How is that going to benefit the United States economy? All of this combined, we can put together a pretty strong argument. Obviously, it depends person to person, right? So that's why I was saying you need to send your resume in and have us review it. But we can put together a petition that can secure you a green card in very little time. So for the EB2 NIW, you can get a decision if you expedite it in as little as 45 days. Now that decision, if it's a yes, you have about a year and a half wait until you can get your green card. So as many of you know, getting your green card, becoming a permanent resident of the United States is not easy. Okay, so if you qualify for this category, jump on it because it's a great opportunity. It's a great way for you to become a permanent resident. Another way to become a green card holder, permanent resident through the EB-5 program. So Rocky here can tell us a little bit about that because she's done it personally for herself and the family.
Okay, so the EB-5 program is an investor visa that leads to a green card. So basically there's two ways to do it. One is called a direct investment. So if you purchase a business or you create a business in a short period of time, that's worth, if you had it appraised or if you purchased it, it's got to be worth more than $1,050,000 in value. And it has to create 10 new American jobs. If you meet that qualification, we can apply for your green card through the EB-5 program. Option 2 under the EB-5, which is the one that I did, is called a regional center investment. So basically what happens is a big developer will go to the government and say, I'm proposing to build this skyscraper, and I would like foreign investment to be able to do that. So the regional center will review the project, take a look at it and say, okay, based on this project, we will allow you 40 EB-5 investors. So you and I, other people from all around the world, we go in and what we do is we give a loan. The minimum loan amount is $800,000. That money goes in as a loan. You got to be prepared to not have it for 3 to 5 years. A lot of the projects will provide you an annual interest rate right now around 5 to 6%. And basically, as soon as you do that, we can file for your green cards. Depending on the country you were born in, if you were born in Canada, you can immediately move to the United States and adjust your status. Other countries have a little bit of a longer wait, but we would be able to check and let you know what the wait time for that is. You and your spouse and any children under the age of 21 would be able to get their green card. If your child is 20 and you do this, as soon as the petition is received and they give you a priority date, it locks in your child's age. So even if it takes, let's say
the problem with that though, what happens when they turn 21?
If they're here on a non-immigrant visa, they go on their own. They break away from the family.
So it's called aging out. So you don't want your kids to age out because then they'll have to go through the process on their own somehow.
You might want your kids to age out so you can send them back to Canada.
Maybe, depends who you talk to, right?
They don't bother you anymore. You're like, sorry.
Okay, wonderful. So that's great. Another way that some people can get their green card is through family sponsorship. So some
Right.
people say, hey, I got a cousin, I got an uncle, I got an aunt. That not going to work. It's got to be immediate family. By immediate family, mother, father, brother, sister, children, kids.
Spouse.
Or spouse. Yes, forgot about the spouse. So with immediate family sponsorship, under some circumstances, there's immediate adjustment status, but under most of the categories, it is a long wait. So for example, if you have a child, let's say you were in the US, you had a kid in the US, they're US citizens, then you move to Canada, back to Canada, right? You're a Canadian citizen. When that child turns 21, they can do an immediate adjustment of status for you. All other family categories, except for spouse is the same thing, but except for spouse, are about a 15 to 16 year wait. Okay, so if your parents want to sponsor you, 15 to 16 year wait. If your brother or sister wants to sponsor, it's even more than that, probably 17 or 18 year wait. So a lot of people say, well, I got, this so-and-so, odds are it's going to be a long wait for you. So what do you do in the meantime? And
I
what
want to
can
come down right now, man. I don't want to wait 18 years.
Right, like most of us. Okay, so there's some non-immigrant visas that can get you down here a lot faster and a lot easier with less money. You just got to basically meet some criteria. Okay, so what are those? So let's talk first. Everyone asks about this. Talk about TN. TN is a very nice special visa for professionals. There's an agreement between Canada, United States and Mexico. So first step would be to check if you're on the TN list. Now, where do you find that? You can Google it. It's on 1,000,001 websites. If
TN
you are on a
professions.
TN professions list, if you are on the TN professions list, clearly, right? Like let's say you are a lawyer, you're on the TN list. Next step would be, before you get involved with us, would be to find a US employer. So do you have company in the United States willing to hire you? Now, a lot of people tell me, well, I tried to tell them that I want to work there, but they don't want to sponsor. Well, you will explain that the TN is a lot simpler. Maybe they haven't had exposure with TN. So because TN is a special visa for Canadians and Mexicans, it allows you to get your visa to work within 1 week of the job starting. So let's say you got a job offer in Miami. You're on the list. You contact us. We put together a package for you. Some of the documents are resume, an offer letter, attorney cover letter. We will make an appointment for you at the border, usually the land border, up in New York, and you will attend the interview there. The officer will let you know on the spot, approved or denied, okay? If you're approved, they put a stamp in your passport. You're free to enter the United States. You can go to the Social Security office and get your Social Security number, and you can begin working for that at that job. Okay? A lot of people think, oh, but TN's easy. I can do that myself. Well, a lot of people call me and say, I tried to do it myself. I was denied, and now what?
Lost my job.
Now, yeah, you could lose the position, or so it's important that if you're going to make a huge life move like that, you want to make sure that you're going to the border prepared with all the supporting documents that you're going to need.
There was a Canadian, I think he went to 3 different land borders, and then he finally gave up and called us.
Yeah.
And he was just making a couple of really important mistakes, and he wasted so much time that the employer revoked the offer.
Right. So because this is something that we do all the time, because this is something that I've researched and practiced, I know exactly what to send you there with. I know exactly what they're going to ask you for, what kind of questions they're going to ask. I can prepare you for the interview and quiz you and say, do this, don't do this. So it's important that if you want to do that, to contact us, okay? So TN's great, usually lasts 3 years. The only downfall with TN is that you don't have control. So if you get fired, you have a short duration of time to leave the United States. So that's the only downfall. Now, what's another visa that you can come down and be in control? And in my opinion, this is one of the best non-immigrant visas out there. It's E2.
Our lovely E2.
Our lovely E2. A lot of
Lovely
Canadians,
E2, yeah, it's great.
90% of our Canadians are doing E2s. Okay, so that's an invest. What's an E2? Do you want to tell us a little bit about E2, Mom?
I did one of those too.
I did one of those too.
Yeah, I think everybody has one.
Everyone has.
You know what's funny? Before I moved here, when I first came, I thought, well, there's probably a few people here on an E2. And having gone to meet different people, I mean, if they turned around tomorrow and said, everybody with an E2 go home, I bet you 10 or 20 million people would exit the US. It's crazy, from all over the world, different treaty countries. So what's an E2, Rocky? What do I have to do? It's pretty simple. You have to open a business, either a startup, a franchise, an existing business. Sometimes I see things on the internet and people say E2 approved business or won't qualify for an E2. There's no such thing, guys. Please don't read any of that gibberish. If the business has a physical location, if it's running from someone's house, we'll move it to a physical commercial location. You have to spend 80, 100,000 or more on what? Well, on legitimate business expenses. Accounting and professional fees included, the setup of that business, anything that you can imagine, rent, furniture, fixture, computers, whatever you have to spend to get that business put together is considered a legitimate expense. So there's 2 parts to the petition. One part is all the background information on you and your family. So here's the beautiful part. We will strategize with you. If you are going to be the principal applicant, so in my case, my husband was, that means me as the spouse immediately gets an open work permit as an E2 E2 spouse. So once you come in, the principal applicant has to run their business. What other things can they do? Well, we can build it into the business plan. So if you have aspirations of maybe buying a second business or creating some, like, you know, with different pieces to it, we can do that at the time of submission. The spouse gets an open permit. Kids under 21, legal ability to live here. They can't work. They can go to school and do everything else. So part 2, business gets put together. We put it all together. It gets sent to the consulate in Toronto. So a couple things, because I've spoken to so many people through the initial calls, please don't try to find a business first on your own and then call us. I mean, you can do that if you want. But if you're not sure what part of the state or maybe another state you want to go to, the best thing to do is to bring us on the team, bring us on board right away. We will then help you set up your US entity, tax ID numbers, everything you need. We can connect you with business brokers that we have established all across the United States, and they will work diligently to help you find the right business that fits what you and your family are looking for. Sometimes these businesses never make it to the MLS or to the internet because brokers are selling them amongst themselves. So that's basically how it works. It's good for 5 years. It renews after 5 years, and you can continue to renew it until forever. There is no, it doesn't time
Year
out.
increments, right?
Sorry?
2 year. After the initial 5 years, it's 2-year increments. So a couple of things I would like to add.
Yes. Did I do
There's-
okay?
You did a great job. There's 3 things that the consulate is looking for. Okay, I
Right.
say this to everyone. The first is source of funds. Where did you get the money? Now, for Canadians, it's not really an issue. I got it. I sold my house. I earned it, right? So that's not a problem. The second is substantial, and is the investment substantial? Substantial is considered different at every different consulate around the world. So in Toronto, if you're going to the Toronto consulate, substantial is in and around 100,000. But like Mama Rocky said, mother-at-law, you don't have to be right on 100,000. You can be in and around. So if you're more around 80, that's fine. We would love it for you to be more at 100 or at 100 or higher, because it strengthens the petition. But if you're comfortable, if the client is comfortable being around 80, that's fine with us. As soon as you start to dip lower than that, it can start to raise some red flags that maybe this investment isn't substantial for an E2. The third factor, which is the hardest for people to wrap their heads around, is funds at risk. So your funds have to be at risk before we can apply for the E2. What does that mean? That means that you have to spend the investment, show us where and proof of how that was spent before we can apply and send your petition. So some people say, but how do I do that? Because, you know, I need the business to get the visa, and I need the visa to get the business, right? Well, there's many ways that you can do it. You can do it remotely. We can connect you with the professionals that you're going to need. My mom Rocky is a realtor and has a lot of connections in that space, a lot of connections with brokers that she can connect you with, and really any professional that you're going to need. Or some people will travel, they'll visit, and they'll set up their business while they're visiting. Now, one thing to note about that is that there's really a fine line in that you cannot work while you're in the United States. Merely setting up the business is fine. However, if you go to the border, okay, and you tell the border, I've sold my home, I quit my job, and I have all my belongings in the backseat of my car, and I'm going down to Florida to start a business, they are going to turn you around and send you home, because you cannot set off warnings that you are coming to the United States to work at that point. So traveling temporarily, coming down as a visitor, a true visitor, setting up your business while you're down here as a visitor, that is fine. Showing them that you're actually ready to move and you have no ties to Canada, not okay. It'll screw up your whole thing for you. So those are really the main 3 things that they're looking for. And like we both said, we can help you to get that done through referring people to you, to connecting you with other professionals. I can refer you to other attorneys if needed, business attorney, we have CPAs, we have brokers, whatever it is that you need, we are here to support you.
Then it sounds really confusing.
Does it? What
Is-
part sounds confusing?
Is it?
No.
But I remember when I heard it for the first time, I was deeply confused and riddled with anxiety.
Okay.
So yeah, and I get this all the time. I actually got it today. I got it yesterday. I got it the day before.
Mhm.
Because I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna move to the United States, which I've only visited 4 times before.
Yeah.
You know, some people have been here longer and they come all the time. That's great. And now you want me to open a business.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know the tax laws. I don't know this. I don't know that.
Right.
And it gets very
Daunting.
daunting.
So
So,
that, for that reason,
yeah,
that is why we said you need to come to us before you start anything. Because if you start it without coming to us, you won't know what to do.
I'm gonna pay you, and then how do I know you're not gonna help me anymore?
Well, I am an attorney licensed by the state of Florida.
Right?
Okay. I'm controlled by the Florida bar, which was a lot of work to get into. So, and to get into the bar, you know, there's all kinds of tests on your morals, on your background, you know. So, I am a person of integrity.
Didn't just put I'm Rocky's daughter and they let you in?
No,
No, that
took
didn't work.
me a very long time.
Yeah, but
So when you're dealing with a legitimate law firm, like us, that takes out some of the fear because there's repercussions to actions, you know, if something were to go wrong. Whereas if you work with like, I know there's like consulting companies out there are no repercussions for their actions. They are not licensed or controlled by any bar or board. And so that right there is a sense of comfort. Another sense of comfort is that the E2 has about a 94-95% approval rate at the Toronto consulate.
what's
That
your rating?
my rating is 100% because I have never had a denial, knock on wood.
We don't want one.
Want one, but we
But
won't have one because we are very diligent. I'm overstaffed, which means I can take care of all the clients very well. And before anything goes out the door, my eyes are on it. I'm checking to make sure that everything is correct and done properly. So I would say the first step to ease your fear would be to have a team to guide you. You literally have all of the pieces in place to do this properly and without stress. You just have to make the commitment and say, we're doing it. And you go with our team and we can guide you through the rest, whatever that may be. I mean, I've had clients so nervous, they've cried to me and I've hugged them. So I understand. I did it myself. When I was really young, I came down on an E2 first time. So I totally understand. It's a huge risk. If you have kids, it's scary because you're like, oh my God, I have to uproot my whole family.
let's
But
talk
let me
about
tell
that for a
you,
second.
let me tell you the benefits, or let's you tell them the benefits of what it is to
Yeah,
move.
sometimes I talk to parents and I get it. You know, some of you are like, well, I'm gonna move when my son finishes high school. I'm gonna move when he's, you know, he doesn't want to come. He's 15 years old. My son didn't want to move either. He was 14. And I basically said, Pete, we're gonna try it. If we're unhappy, we're gonna come home. And he said, okay, Mom. So we came down. At the beginning, it was a bit weird. Like I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, where am I? What am I doing here? You know? And then slowly, you know, we got acclimated and it was the best decision we ever made. So Peter had a tremendous high school experience, incredible university experience. He used to thank me once a month for moving here. Then you know, then it spread a little bit more. A couple months ago, he sent me a video of him at an amazing beach party. And it said at the bottom, hey, Mom, thanks for forcing me to move to Florida. It's hard to understand the impact that the move will make, but I haven't met a single person who's regretted it. And we truly are here to guide you from start to finish. We want to, make sure it's as smooth as possible for you. The other beautiful thing is if your child graduates from a Florida high school, I'm not sure how Texas works, but if they finish grade 12 and then go to university or college, they would pay in-state tuition, which is 1/3 if they're an international student. If they go here for grade 11 and 12, they have the opportunity of getting the Bright Future Scholarship, which is paid through the state of Florida with the lottery earnings. And it basically, if your child reaches a certain GPA and a certain SAT score, they'll either get 100, 75, 50, or 25% of their entire undergraduate tuition paid by the state of Florida. So there's a lot of incentives, to come down. It's just like forcing your kid to eat broccoli. They don't want it. We know it's good for them. So same idea,
Let's eat some broccoli.
Yes, some good broccoli.
Okay, so once we moved down, we discovered a few things, and through practice, I've discovered a few things about estate planning. Okay, so do you want to talk a little bit about your experience with estate planning?
Sure. Unfortunately, I was in a car accident a year and a half ago, and I sustained some injuries. And my attorney at the time said to me, well, don't worry, if his insurance doesn't cover the medical bills, we will sue him personally. And I'm like, excuse me? How does that work? And I realized that in the state of Florida, there are lots of lawsuits. And if you're not protected enough, they can go after your assets. So if you are a permanent resident in Florida, you can homestead your property, which means no one can touch it. But if you're here on an E2 or on any other type of work visa, your property is not protected. And so I realized very quickly that I needed to do some estate planning, and I created a family trust. I moved my house, bank accounts, any assets that I had into the family trust. And I did some other estate planning to make sure that I was protected. And in the event something happened to me, I didn't want my kids to have to go through probate and fight for what was, rightfully theirs. And the trust does that. It protects not only your property from creditors or people coming after you, but it also creates a seamless transition of your property to your heirs without any issue in transition at all. So estate planning is a huge part of what we do now as well.
So you used some pretty fancy words there.
Like
You
that?
said probate
Probate.
and
Yeah.
trust. What does that mean?
Probate is, let's say that I leave a will, and in the will it says, I leave my house to Mena. Sometimes, depending on the situation, you may have to go to probate court and basically satisfy the judge to make sure that I actually wanted my property to go to Mena.
Okay.
And so it takes a long time. There's court costs, legal costs.
What happens to the asset during that time?
It's there.
Can't sell it, right?
Yeah.
So God forbid, you're a married couple and you have a kid, one of the spouses passes away. That other spouse can't sell the home to take care of the kid. They have to wait, right, for that decision to be made by the court. So how do we avoid it then? With a trust? What does a trust mean?
A trust is a separate entity, okay? And basically the trust becomes another, over here, you get your property and you transfer the deed of that property or your bank account, savings, whatever. And now the trust owns all of that. And you and your spouse, I don't remember the right name for it, you control the trust.
Mm-hmm.
You decide.
The
So
initial trustee.
yeah, it's not like your kids can come and say, hey, I'm taking the house. No.
Right. You can remove people, add people, make all the changes you'd
So
like.
if you don't treat me nice, you're out of there.
And the best part of a trust is that if something happens, right? So let's say your spouse is in a coma, God forbid, right? Or your spouse passes away. You automatically take control over that asset. So there's no court process. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to talk to anyone about it. You are the person designated and in line to take care of that and have that asset. And you can also specify that's okay. You can specify what your wishes are as well, right? You can say, I want to leave 1/3 to my sister. I want this to happen. I want that to happen. We can customize it for you so that when you do pass or if something happens to you, you are protected, as well as the healthcare documents, right? So you can tell me, hey, if I'm in a vegetative state, for example, and there's no way I'm coming back, I don't want to be brought back.
Or keep me
Pull
alive
the
as a
plug.
Don't pull the plug.
Pull the plug, don't pull the plug. So you can specify, okay, what do you want to happen, when, and who do you want to make decisions? You could specify all of it. So I think being in control of that is super important, especially if you have kids. And even if you don't have kids, you don't want the state of Florida to make your healthcare decisions for you. You'd like someone that you love and trust to make them for you. So this is a lot of, legalese, a lot of fancy words. All you got to do is give us a call. I have a dedicated person that's on my staff for estate planning. I will meet with you. We will discuss exactly what you want. We will draft that for you, and you'll have an amazing experience with that. So just give us a call. You don't have to know what everything means. I can explain it to you one-on-one and get that taken care of for you.
Even if you listen, I know there's a lot of Canadians on with us tonight, and I'm sure a lot of you already own property here. Even if you decide to never make the move, you should still protect your property and protect yourself, even if you're coming down as a snowbird or coming down for vacation. It's really important to do that, especially if you're staying in Canada, because it just causes a whole other layer of problems for your heirs if it's not set up properly.
Yes.
So, yeah, very
100%.
important.
Which you want your kids or your family, wherever you leave it to not have the hassle of having to go through court, and not to mention the cost of that, right? They're not going to just show up there by themselves. They're going to have to hire a lawyer.
It's
So
long distance, and it's just, I
yeah,
mean, a trust is what, $1,500 minute?
yeah. So
A tiny amount to pay to protect everything.
right. So that's something that we also specialize in. So just book a call with us and we can explain it to you. I know it's a little bit tough to understand sometimes. So we've gone through all these things. Now let's talk about the benefits of having a great team. Let's talk about that again, because I think that's super important. So what do you think would have been the difference for you 7 years ago when you moved down to have a team like ours? Not to
Oh.
toot our own horn, but
We're
toot
tooting.
toot.
Well, it would have been life-changing. There were so many things that I found out once I got here that if I had known before I got here, it would have made a world of difference.
Mhm.
So I think that's a critical piece. We
What
were
are a
kind of,
couple things that would have made a world of difference, you
well, I
think?
didn't know that I could buy property in Florida and use my Canadian credit.
Mhm.
That kind of stuff. And we have some amazing finance partners that can help you use your Canadian credit to buy property down here. Even with real estate, there's so many little things when you're buying down here that are so different than Canada, things to look out for. So we make sure that we protect you because we know where you're coming from, and you're not going to know to ask certain questions because you just aren't. We're not used to it back in Canada. So things like that. And then, um, you know, our lawyer didn't, I think I talked to him twice. It was hard to get a hold of him, and it was really difficult. We don't do that. It's a live person that answers our phone. We get back to you right away. We truly are invested in it with you and really want to make you have an incredible experience. Excuse me. I talk too much. Even my grade 2 teacher told my parents.
Okay, so maybe we can go through at this point some of the
Excuse me.
questions that people are having. So let me see here. Okay. We have one here. If I am being sponsored by an employer, What responsibilities does my employer have in the visa application process? And how can I ensure that their part of the application is completed correctly and promptly? That's a great question when well worded, Edward. So, the first step, if you have an employer who is willing to sponsor you, they have said that and they're ready to go. The first step would be to engage us, because we can guide not just you, but also the employer through what is required. So we will work together as a team. And that will ensure that their part is completed correctly and promptly, because we will be, corresponding with them, sending them exactly what we need and holding them accountable. The responsibilities of the employer are quite great depending on the type of visa. So the visas that I mentioned before, EB1 and EB2 new, those do not require the sponsorship of an employer. However, if you're doing a TN or an H1B, other visa categories, the employer, for TN, it's quite simple, but for H1B, for example, the employer is going to have to prove that they could not hire an American to do the same job. So the employer is going to have to provide financial information. They're going to have to participate in quite a few different things to prove that they can hire an American. So if you involve us from the beginning, I think that would be the best way to ensure that that gets done properly and correctly for you. So I hope that answered your question. Your question. Let's go on to the next. Can you provide insights into the current political or policy landscape regarding immigration between Canada and the USA? This is a good question too. Well, everyone is so well worded tonight. I love it. So, Nicole, to answer your question, immigration, yes, there's some political sway in it. However, certain visas like the E2 have been around for years and years and years. And it doesn't really matter who's in office. Those visas have always been processed and the approval rate has stayed consistent. When it comes to immigrant-based visas, when you have a Republican in office, that can sometimes delay processing times. We can be looking at certain privileges being removed. Does that mean that the entire visa is gone itself? No. The rules might change a little bit. For example, with the EB5 project, with the EB5 investment, for example, the minimum investment was changed. It was higher. The ability to adjust your status and stay in the United States while that processes was not available. So right now, if you're considering an immigrant-based visa, right now would be the time to do it before the election. Now, some people say, oh, well, if Trump gets elected, does that automatically delay everything? No, it would take some time for change to happen. So I would say over the next year and a half, if you're considering to make this move and you are eligible for an immigrant-based visa, I would say go for it before things change, right? So I hope that answered your question for that. In terms of Canada, we talk to people every day about the political situation there. I think some economists have said that even if Trudeau does not get reelected, it's going to take 30 years to reverse the damage that has been done. So I think now is the time, Nicole. What do you think about that, Mom?
Well, my worry is they spent so much money and gave away so much money, and now they have to collect it. And you see it, the carbon tax, capital gains tax. He's looking every way he can to try to recover money. And there's some rumors running around that perhaps they're going to start charging capital gains tax on your principal residence. I'm not too comfortable leaving any property or money in Canada at this time. I've taken everything out because with the capital gains thing, June this month, all of a sudden they announced it. They do it quickly, so you don't have a chance to, sell or get rid of the property before it comes into effect. So I'm not sure what's going to happen in Canada. I don't think things are going to get a lot better soon.
Right. And Florida's definitely, or Texas, or any of these states that are Republican states are usually more free, more conducive to business and low taxes. So there's a difference. I mean, if you go to California, you look at California, that's very similar to Canada, in my opinion. You go to Florida, you know, there's so many advantages to coming down here right now. Some of the biggest companies in the world are relocating their headquarters to Miami. So now is the time.
There's no state income tax in Florida. So your tax bracket's way lower. You save a lot of money on taxes on an annual basis here.
That's right. So Edward asked another question. Can you provide a step-by-step overview of the application process for obtaining a US visa or a green card, and what documents and information will I need to provide at each stage? So that's a wonderful question again. And because there's so many visas, we would be here till tomorrow morning if I was going to outline each stage and what documents you would need. So what I would suggest to you, Edward, is to book a call. And if you want to spend the hour with myself or one of our immigration specialists, you can do that. And we will walk you through step by step, just what you're looking for, how you can get that very specific visa. Okay. Wendy said, my father is a dual citizen and I was told 10 years for him to sponsor me. So it takes about 15. So what you're going to need to look at is what's called the Visa Bulletin Board. The Visa Bulletin Board will show you the preference. So there's different categories. For example, if you're unmarried or married over the age of 21, you know, it will depend on how long it'll take. So you'll have to look at what category you are and look at the visa bulletin to get an exact number as to what year they're currently issuing green cards for.
Has
Okay.
Randy been putting up our Calendly link? I don't see, I'm not looking at the chat.
I'm not sure. Randy, do you mind posting the Calendly link for us?
Yep, it is going. I am posting it with questions, so it's
Awesome.
there.
Thanks,
Okay.
There's a lot of other good questions, but a little bit down. I don't know if I can send them to you or if you
You
want to
read
kind
them
of.
out too, Randy, if you think there's some good ones.
Okay, so someone is asking as far as with the E2, if two families want to invest, how does that work?
That's a great question. Okay, so if two families want to invest, they can do that by having two principal owners from, let's say, husband and wife. The two husbands, for example, will own 50-50 of the LLC, 50% each. It has to be at least 50% ownership to each of them in order to qualify for the visa. So that's the first requirement. The second is that they will have to meet the requirements for an E2 visa independently, each of them, for their 50% share. So that means if you have to spend $100,000 for an E2, now you'll have to buy a $200,000 business owned 50-50.
Right.
So that can, yeah, we can bring down two families for sure.
Another one is, what if they don't have experience with running a business before?
So that's okay.
Oh,
Yeah, that's a good question. Go ahead, Mom.
a lot of people ask me that and they're afraid of it, but let me explain to you what happens. So let's say you buy a business, whether it's a franchise or an existing business. What happens is part of the negotiation will be that the owner stays on for a period of time to train you. So first you make the offer, you do your due diligence, you check everything. We have people that can help you with that to make sure the numbers are there, what they're claiming. Then there'll be a period sometimes it's a month, sometimes it's 2 weeks, sometimes it's even 6 months where the owner will stay on as a consultant. And you will hold back funds. So you might hold back $20,000. The new owner has to train you for a period of 6 weeks. At the end of that 6 weeks, the money gets released to them. So you're not just, a lot of people are fearful that they're going to buy a business, just walk in and they're like, what do I do? It doesn't work that way. If it's a franchise, they have more formal training where they actually take you through, give you the software, everything that you need. And it's a smooth transition. Owning a business, I've been a business owner for over 30 years. I only had one job in my life, like a real job. I was an elementary school teacher when I first graduated. And running a business is easier than being a teacher. And, you know, when I first started in teaching, the other teachers had to kind of show me the way. Same thing with a business. The owner will show you the way. There's consultants you can hire if you need to. So I wouldn't really worry about that.
Someone also asked about E2 renewals. when
What
it comes
about them?
to renewals? What is the process and how does it work?
Yeah, so at the end of so during your first 5 years, you should be focused on building your business. At the end of the 5 years upon renewal, we'll have to update the business plan. It's basically the petition over again, updated with the current numbers to show what you've done in the past 5 years. You will run into issues if you let your business lay dormant, if you haven't generated a revenue, if you have not hired a single employee. At that point, it could be quite difficult to say why, to prove why this business should get a renewal. So you want to make sure that during the first 5 years, you're working towards your business. Now, I understand things happen. People say, oh, what happens if, during those 5 years, there's a turn in the economy and I can't maintain my business and, it goes under. Well, you have to reinvest at that point. So you would have to reinvest into another type of business, show how much you and where it came from and the whole nine again. And then we can apply for renewal at that point with an explanation as to what had gone wrong the first time around.
The other thing too I want to mention is people say, well, what if the business doesn't do well? I've lost all my money. Your business is always worth something unless you close the doors, take everything in it and, vacate it. Like even restaurants, let's say you have a restaurant and for some reason you're not running the business anymore. Your lease, your equipment, the mere fact that it has ovens and exhaust fans already built in, there's a value there. And the nice thing about a business, a lot of people say, well, I like security, I like a job. I disagree. And Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, agrees with me too. No one's going to walk into my office and say, hey, Rocky, here's your walking papers. You're gone in 2 weeks. I know that my business isn't doing well or it is doing well, and I'm in control. If I want to change something, change my pricing, change what I'm doing, change my marketing, I know that I'm able to control that and I can see it coming a lot farther away. So there are things you can do. If you purchase a business and you don't like it, maybe you're not cut out to run that kind of business, you can always sell it or then maybe buy something different.
So I think what we can do at this point is actually talk about the prize. I see a couple people have called it a night already. So I want to announce that before everyone leaves. So we have a $250 US $250 Travelocity, which is it's like $5 million. Travelocity gift card that we're going to give away tonight. Do you want to tell them, Mom, how they can be eligible to win?
Sure. Well, a lot of people I've spoken to have seen us on a Facebook group called Canadians Moving to Florida. We also have a Facebook group that's the firm owns it. It's called Canadians Immigrating and Moving to Florida in the US. And most recently, Mena opened another Facebook group that's called Ask an Attorney. And there you'll get all kinds of information. You can put in posts. We want to build a nice community, helping one another to answer some of these questions. Mena takes care of that group personally and will come on and answer questions over the course of time. So it's a young group. There's only about 450 people that are part of it. If you want to win the gift card, please go on, join the group. It's no cost to become a part of the community. And in the next 24 hours, anyone who's become a member from now until tomorrow evening, next 24 hours, we are going to randomly select one of our new members on that Facebook group and award them the prize. I think Randy's going to put up the information for that group. Am I right, Randy?
Yep, I'm on it.
Where are you putting it, in the chat?
In the chat, yeah. And then there'll also be a follow-up email that will have it in there as well. So you guys will be able to click the link in the emails.
Okay, perfect. So Randy's going to make it really easy for you. She's going to send an email with the link to that group. I guess, why don't you send both groups? I mean, you can join both. And then we will announce, I guess, via email, we'll announce the winner.
Yeah.
We'll do that tomorrow night. Okay. So join our group, become a part of the community. I'm looking to create Canadians in Florida, July 1st party down in South Florida. We're aiming to do it for next summer. So we can, plan to meet one another in person and even start networking our own businesses and, keep it tight as Canadians helping one another here in Florida.
I also have one more thing that I'd like to add. So if you are a woman and you are an entrepreneur or looking to become an entrepreneur, I've created another group.
Wow, you're a group
A
creator.
group person. It's called Women Entrepreneurs Social Group South Florida. So this might be a great way if you're a woman from Canada and you're coming down on E2, this might be a great way to connect with other women doing the same thing. So again, it's Women Entrepreneurs Social Group South Florida.
What about My Mom is the Best group?
No,
Facebook.
that
How
doesn't
about a
exist.
Facebook group dedicated to awesome moms out there. Maybe I'm gonna do that one.
So I'm sorry if we didn't answer everyone's questions. There were 160 questions. So if you want to talk one-on-one with us, like we said, it's free. You can just use the link that Randy, the Calendly link that Randy has been posting, and we would be happy to answer your questions. Oh, someone says say hi to Johnny Pizzulo.
Who's that? Who is that?
John, another John.
Other John? Hi, John. I'll let him know, but I don't know which John.
We'll let Johnny know.
Johnny's my husband.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming out tonight. What a great turnout. I mean, how lucky are we to have such a great group of people? And hopefully you found this webinar to be informative and to help you, like I said, if it can help at least one person make the move and do it properly, then we've won here tonight. So
Thank you, everyone, for spending this time with us tonight. I look forward to meeting and working with many of you.
okay, good night. Good night, ladies. Good night, Randy.
Hi, Randy. Thank you.
Bye.